Julie Hamos, my great friend and successor in the state legislature now in Springfield and running for statewide office now, told me her cockroach theory of organizing. And what she says is, if you open up a cabinet one day in your kitchen and you see just 2 little cockroaches, the reason it strikes terror in your heart is not because you're afraid of a couple little bugs. It's because you are certain that means that behind the walls and in your cabinets and in all the places that you can't see, that cockroaches are multiplying. That, you know, you might have to move or something, you know, that it, and so not that many messages to elected officials. We believe, and I am certain that it's true, that it's representative of a lot more people who aren't writing, who aren't calling, who aren't organized. I noted that in the materials that I was sent, all the groups that are represented here today, and if you add up the membership of those groups and institutions like DePaul, it's big. It's a lot of people. And so the challenge is, how do you go out and mobilize people who are already in some ways organized? You know, it's not like you have to go out and find new people. Of all the organizations that are represented here, there's a lot of members already that if they're, and I believe this is now, one of the things that Barack Obama has done is inspire people as to what is possible, the kind of change that is possible when people get together and make it happen. And his election is a clear example of that. And by the way, we all need to be part of that change agenda. It's not going to happen just because of the election. We're not all, the same array of opponents are out there as were before. You know, when it comes to changing healthcare policy and making it a right in this country, there's still the insurance industry, and there's the HMOs and the pharmaceutical companies that profit from the status quo right now. And so we're all going to have to be there to organize around those things. But whatever the particular human rights issue, I would suggest one of the keys to success is building off of those coalitions to come up with some priorities that everybody's going to work on. If it's immigration reform, for example, because the kinds of human rights that are violated when it comes to immigration in our own communities, or if it's LGBT rights, or whatever it is, I think that the more your groups can coalesce around an agenda. I know in Washington there's for example, the Tuesday morning group, progressive organizations get together and share information and also organize around particular agendas. Sometimes it's for the week because there's a vote on something that's coming up, or for the long term on how are we going to build for the future debates. But I would really suggest that coalition building, setting priorities, coordinating is super important. And then don't just talk to yourselves. You know, I see so many groups that get together and meet. You need to reach the decision makers. And as I hope I've communicated, it really isn't that hard to do. Know your power. My speaker, Nancy Pelosi, wrote a book with that name, Know Your Power. I think so many people have felt impotent. And when there's leadership exerted, when there's a plan laid out, that it's going to make a difference. I met with I know I totally sound like I'm name dropping Bono last week. And while we were talking about, not just about his tour, but about you know, his agenda, the one agenda, I got an email from, I'm on the one list, his organization to combat global poverty. And it said, there will be a vote next week to reduce the amount of money for foreign assistance in the Senate. And it urges me to call Senator Durbin and Senator Burris and say, you know, vote to continue the funding, to raise the funding for global health. He was so thrilled. I mean, you all have, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but you also want to have a communications mechanism as well. And I say, not talking just to yourself, I'm not just speaking of the kind of grassroots organizing, door-to-door, mobilizing people, you know, in their homes or in their workplace, but to communicate to the public what you're doing, to find something newsworthy that makes what you're doing important today. You're going to be sending letters to the senators, or there's going to be an important decision, or we want there to be an important decision on torture, whatever the human rights issue, be it local or at any level. Communicate with the media. Find individuals who have been affected by this to be the face of whatever you're talking about, so that there's a personal, that makes it more newsworthy, and there's more personal interest in that. Somebody who has been the victim of discrimination, or someone who is an attorney for someone in Guantanamo Bay, and you know, at all different levels you can do this. There's an atmosphere right now that is receptive to these kinds of activities. And let me close with this. So I do want some time for questions and answers. The one major change that I feel more than can quantify right now is that during the Bush administration, he was talking about the ownership society, which translated to me, you're on your own, buddy. You know, that everybody's kind of got to make it on their own. Personal responsibility, which I believe in, personal responsibility. But I think that there's a growing ethic now that we're all in this together. And that there are more people that want to volunteer. And there are more mechanisms now that the Obama administration is offering to people to volunteer their time. And time is what more people have more of than money right now. But I think that there is this growing sense, be it the environment, which is challenging whether or not human beings will actually be able to survive on this planet, to the economy, and to the kinds of things, despicable things, I think, that we've seen even our own country do. And that these are not acts of God, and they're not natural disasters. They're the result of bad decisions, and that we can make better ones, and that working together, we really can resolve the human rights challenges that we face in our community and around the world. Thank you so much.